Good afternoon. Welcome to BBOC Live. This is the College Football National Championship betting preview. It's 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm Stucky, and joining me today are my fellow BBOC co-hosts, Colin Wilson, Mike Calabrese. We have a lot to get to today. We'll give our favorite props, or our look on side or total in the game. We'll
Welcome.
give some anytime touchdown looks, and we'll bring in Sean Koerner for his two favorite props. And we'll even get Johnny Manzel in here to give his thoughts on the game. Quick little plug here for our picks today. We're providing easy to use quick slips in the YouTube chat and episode description so you can easily find and tail if you choose to do so. Gentlemen, this is the final college football show of the season. Let's close on a high note. I will ask you though, what are your plans for the game, Colin? I'll ask you first.
I was at the Fiesta Bowl and Cotton Bowl. I'm going to get on my couch and I'm just going to enjoy not being in traffic, in press boxes, on the field. Like, I'm just going to enjoy it all to myself. So hopefully it's a better game where all my bets win.
Yeah, I'll be on the couch as well. I'm trying to time up my order. I'll probably order some wings, get some delivery. Like when is the game gonna start? 7:30 fake time? Was it probably 7:45? So that's what I'm trying to figure out, but I'll be watching on my couch. Calabrese, how about you?
Yeah, I'm just going to do a home game here on the couch. I'm with you, Stuck, depending on the flavor of the first half. If it's a blowout, I think that's going to impact my Uber Eats order at halftime. If it's a compelling game, I'm probably going to be more interested, siding more with the beverages in the second half over food. So I'm going to try to have a fluid strategy in terms of game time eats and drinks moving down the stretch.
I believe Ohio, speaking of eats, I mean Ohio State after they beat who did they beat? Texas, and they had steak for their team dinner, and then they beat Oregon and they had duck. If you beat Notre Dame, what do you have?
Catholics.
Cabbage and potatoes? I don't know.
Yeah, I hope it's not corned beef and cabbage because that nobody wants that.
I'm a huge corned beef. I'm a big corned beef guy.
I mean, other than St. Patrick's Day, or is it an anytime meal
I
for
mean a
you?
corned beef
Pretty
sandwich. Give me
bold.
a corned beef sandwich. But
Gotcha.
all right, we'll start with our favorite props. I'm gonna go with Emeka Egbuka longest reception over, I believe it's at 21 and a half now. I think he's going to get a couple of chances to hit some deep shots in this game. And his yards per route run, basically the same, whether it's zone or man. We know Notre Dame is the most man-heavy defense in the country. They do play some zone. I am super curious to see how much zone and how much man. I don't think they're going to play as much zone as we saw from Texas, who's used to that, but they could mix it up some more. I think there's going to be a lot of attention on Jeremiah Smith. Why wouldn't there be? We saw what he did against Oregon. We saw what Texas was able to do in limiting him, and that almost won them the game. So I think he's going to have some looks against this Notre Dame secondary that when you I mean, their defense has been tremendous all year, but when you really look at it, what elite receivers have they faced all year? I mean, not in the college football playoff, I'll tell you that. You got to go maybe to USC and Louisville. And those are top 25 offenses. And I mean, USC was playing with a backup quarterback, but they had seven total receivers who had receptions of at least 20 yards in those two games. And if you go back to the last two meetings, Egbuka against Notre Dame had 9 for 90 and 7 for 96, had a catch of at least 23 yards in both. You have to attack this Notre Dame defense down the sidelines with some slot fades. And, if they do go more zone, I think he's really, really good at finding those deep holes. And I think he's primed here to have another big game against Notre Dame. So give me Egbuka. Longest reception, I believe it's at 21 and a half. Colin, where are you headed for your favorite prop tonight?
Well, I do like that one a lot. Emeka Egbuka has been targeted in the first drive of Ohio State's game, 4 of the last 5. He had 3 receptions against Texas. He is what gets them off. I love that bet. I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. I'm going to take Jaden Greathouse, the wide receiver for Notre Dame, to go over 22 and a half on his receiving yards. What does Jaden Greathouse like to do? He likes to go straight over the middle, and that's really the only soft area you can attack the coverage of Ohio State is against the linebackers of Cody Simon and Sonny Styles. Styles was targeted 10 times by Texas running backs and tight ends, but Simon was targeted 3 times by slot receivers for the Longhorns. If you look at what Great House does and where he lines up, he was used exclusively against Penn State, against the linebackers, 7 targets, 7 catches, over 100 yards in the Orange Bowl. I think it's going to be more of the same here on the short routes here from Riley Leonard to Great House. So I'll go over 22.5 receiving yards.
Like that one as well. Calabrese, you're going to go with a little bit of a long shot here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a big swing, an MVP pick here at 12-1. Trevion Henderson is, in my opinion, he's still undervalued. Despite how well he's played, he looks reborn during this college football playoff run. He's averaging 9 yards per carry, and 12 targets have translated to 8 receptions, 149 yards, and a touchdown in the passing game. And not only is he scoring and putting up big stats, but these are highlight reel plays. And certainly to be able to steal an MVP honor away from the winning quarterback, in this case being his quarterback, he's going to need to do it with some memorable moments. And I think he has an opportunity. And I understand the downside. Judkins has absolutely carved out his role for the Buckeyes as the goal line bell cow. He's eating up about 90% of those carries in those goal to go situations. But Henderson still has 3 red zone touchdowns in his last 7 games. So I think there's an opportunity once they get inside the 20 for him to catch a swing pass, for him to take, perhaps a carry from outside of the 10 and get into the end zone. And that's what he'll need to do, because if it's an absolute split on touchdowns between him and Judkins, I think the chances of him winning this MVP honor kind of goes up in smoke. But you also look at the blueprint for who has beaten Notre Dame this year. NIU ran for 190 yards. The offense ran through Ontario Brown, not only on the ground, but also through the air. As Colin points out, you want to attack this linebacking core of the Irish, and you have an opportunity with so much man coverage to be able to break a single tackle and go for a long touchdown. And then finally, when you look at that Orange Bowl, if there had been an MVP, it would have gone to Nick Singleton. He went for 15, 84, and 3 touchdowns. And Notre Dame's strength on defense simply is not in the trenches. Look no further than their rush success rating, 69th in the country, and line yards, 57th. So I understand there's an option or an opportunity for Judkins to kind of be a touchdown vulture and to put me in a position where Henderson doesn't have a chance to win this. But at 12-1, I think the value's on him to win MVP.
Yeah, and Singleton dropped a touchdown too, right?
He did, yeah, that's right.
That really could have, that was a big swing in that game. So Calabrese taking a big swing in the MVP market. Good stuff, guys. Let's bring in the one and only Mr. Sean Koerner for his 2 favorite props. Sean, I do thank you for taking time out of your day and taking a break from emailing the NFL office trying to get Roquan Smith credit for that last tackle last night.
Yeah, still waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get 2 favorite props today.
Yeah.
Where are you going first?
Yeah, first one for Notre Dame, I'm going to go Jadarian Price, under 25.5 rushing yards here. You can get it at -114. But, this is a number Price typically clears. He's gone over this in 11 of 15 games, so 73% hit rate. However, there are, a couple things going against him here in this spot. First is, Notre Dame has only lost 1 game this year, so they've typically been in leading run-heavy game scripts. So as 8.5-point dogs tonight, that probably won't be the case. I'm projecting their team total rushing attempts to be a bit lower here. Plus, we might see, pass catching back Aeneas Williams out there a bit more if it is a trailing game script. And, Price has struggled the last 3 games. Notre Dame has faced 3 very solid run defenses in a row, and he's only averaged 2.9 yards a carry over that stretch. And this is going to be his toughest matchup yet against Ohio State. So I'm actually projecting his yards per carry closer to 4.3 here, and his median closer to like 21.5 rushing yards, with about a 60% chance he stays under 25.5 here.
Yeah, and that Ohio State run defense is playing at an elite level. I mean, you just look at the last 3 offenses they faced, all great rushing offenses. 2 of them have arguably the best 2 offensive lines, and none of those teams could get anything going on the ground. This Ohio State run D in particular is really peaking, especially after they changed the role of Caleb Downs. And where are you going for your second?
I'm going to go with Trevion Henderson, under 2.5 receptions at -115. I noticed I was showing some slight value on his under in his receiving yards, 19.5, but that's not a market I'm interested in fading Henderson at all. He took that check down for 75 yards in the final seconds of the first half last week. That ended up being his only catch in the game. And I could see him having an explosive catch or two in this game. But this just isn't a number he typically clears in this market. So, I'm projecting him to run around 19 dropbacks here. And he's only seen a target on 12.6% of his routes run this year. So I'm actually showing his most likely outcome being two targets. If he only gets two targets here, this will be an auto cash. But even if he gets three, he has a 90% catch rate on the season. He's still not a lock to, catch all three targets. And, against a defense like Notre Dame, you'd expect his catch rate to be, less than 90%.
Yeah.
So having said all that, I ran my sim and, I'm projecting him to stay under 2.5 catches around 62% of the time. But again, he might have an explosive catch. I am not interested in fading his receiving yards at all here.
Yeah. And unfortunately, if you go back in recent history, a lot of these national championships have been blowouts. So I have a lot of Ibuka props. One of the things I'm worried about is if Ohio State is able to just run the ball right down Notre Dame's throat and, blow them out early, a lot of the passing props are going to get pretty dicey. So the game state could then work in your favor as well. Where will you be watching the game at home?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone out the past couple nights for NFL action, so I think I'll stay home. We'll see how I feel, in a couple hours though. But yeah, probably staying home tonight.
All right. Well, thanks for the insight, Sean. Good luck on getting that reversal on Roquan Smith, and we'll talk later in the week with some NFL. Cheers, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's move on to the actual game, talk a little side and total. If we have a look there, for me, I'm passing on both the side and total. I make this around a touchdown to show a little bit of value on Notre Dame, but I just don't like the matchup on either side of the ball. The total to me is going to come down to what Notre Dame decides to do on defense. How much zone do they play? How much man do they play? What is their philosophy? Do they want to take Texas's route, who had success saying, look, we don't want you to beat us deep, keep everything in front of us? Or do they stay true to their identity and play aggressive, play just as much man as they have been? And then does Ohio State go with some more tempo, which they've alluded to? And in that case, I'd want an over ticket. So too much uncertainty for me. I'm passing game side and total. Might get involved live based on what I see. But Colin, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm already on the over 45. 45 and a half is out there right now. I would still take that. I do like Ohio State minus 8.5, but for those of you following in the action app, I've been parlaying, teasing, pinging that Ohio State number with NFL. I will be playing this live if it jumps below 7 again, but I like Ohio State and the over in this for a number of reasons. Ohio State is very successful in every single run concept that they have. They've used counter since they got in the playoffs. Before that, it was all inside zone read. You have to wonder if they're going to go back to inside zone read because the Irish defense has been horrific on the defensive interior, a 41% success rate against inside zone. They just Notre Dame kind of got lucky with the draw of the playoff facing teams that only run outside zone. And that's something that Ohio State can avoid and run inside zone and tear them up. Also, for the over, Chip Kelly was pretty muffled in his presser about what he doesn't like out of Notre Dame. He doesn't like the fact that Notre Dame secondary is allowed to line up, is the fact that they get to communicate, the fact that they're always the most prepared. Someone asked him, we're going to go up tempo, and he wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't talk about anything that he was going to do X's and O's, but he hinted at the fact that he doesn't want Notre Dame to get lined up. You look at that first drive against Texas. Ohio State averaged 29.8 seconds per play. That first scoring drive, 10 plays and a touchdown for over 75 yards. That was about 25 seconds per play against Texas. So up tempo is in the cards. I think it's going to happen here against Notre Dame. Is there going to be extra attention for Jeremiah Smith? You have to think Notre Dame's going to try to do something uncharacteristic like run a cover two or maybe, help inside of man, maybe double team him. But Will Howard has been perfect with any kind of blitz or any kind of pressure during the playoff. And there are a ton of other weapons here with Egbuka and with Tate that can definitely get downfield against whatever Notre Dame is able to show. Plus, we talked about it on the podcast. I love Mitch Jeter, the kicker for Notre Dame. He's hit 7 of 8 field goals in the 3 playoff games, 8 PATs. That's 29 points. His number out there is over 5.5. I like him to go over that number. He's kicking from everywhere and he's hot right now. So look for both offenses to have good run schemes that are going to get them into scoring position. I don't know how Notre Dame exactly scores outside of their kicker, but I have confidence in Ohio State scoring every time they're in scoring position.
Yeah, it'd be a major storyline. How does Notre Dame fare in the red zone when they do, and if they are able to drive the field against an Ohio State defense that's been so dominant in that aspect? We saw it last week winning the game. They even turned a first and goal at the 1 into 7 the other way. So how will Notre Dame manage to score will be important. But as you mentioned, Mitch Jeter being healthy is key for that special teams. They were so bad during the regular season because they couldn't make a kick, but he wasn't healthy. Now he's finally healthy. We've seen him in the past in his prior stop be a very good kicker. Looks like he's fully back. Calabrese, what are you looking at here?
I'm going with a big swing with a ladder strategy, starting at 8.5 for a unit and then going all the way up to 20.5, laying it at north of 3-1. And the reasons are pretty simple. I'm glad that Colin just got into Chip Kelly because both Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, I think they circled the wagons after a really ugly finish to the regular season. In their last 3 opening quarters of the regular season, they scored 3 total points. During this playoff run, if you look at their opening 3 drives, those are 9 drives across those 3 playoff games, 6 touchdowns. So they're coming out red hot. And I think Notre Dame, we can all agree, they need a certain kind of game script to unfold for them to be able to muck this up and to maybe steal a victory in the fourth quarter. If they get in deep water early and potentially have a turnover and get into a situation where they're down 2 scores, I think this could snowball. And it's not a situation that they've grown accustomed to. Since the NIU game, they are 11-0-2 in the turnover battle. And I think that's just something that has been able to elevate them and to make them look a little bit better because every single offensive snap, really for those 13 games, there's been the risk of the run, particularly the quarterback run, and it's made it easier for Denbrock to basically scheme open receivers for Riley Leonard. So he's having higher percentage throws and he's avoiding turnovers. I'd like him to potentially throw multiple picks in this game, trying to press, trying to get them back in the second half. And then if you want to look at history, dating back to the first BCS national title game, the favorite has covered by more than a touchdown 46% of the time in the national title game. These favorites have just run away, and teams, when they get a little bit desperate and they have to go outside of their comfort zone as an underdog, it has gotten really ugly. And then Ohio State this season, they've matched up with 6 ranked opponents. They posted a 5-1 straight up record, a 5-1 record against the closing number, and in 4 of those 5 wins, they've covered by the alternate line of a touchdown or more at about 2-1. So I see more of that happening here. If it's going to be an Ohio State win, I think it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, especially if they get up big early. They get up 2 possessions early. The problem for Notre Dame is the receivers aren't great, right? And Ohio State can generate pressure without blitzing. So if they're in known passing situations, Riley Leonard has not been good when under pressure when teams don't blitz, and Ohio State is able to do that. So if they're having to play from behind and they have to pass, and Ohio State knows they have to pass, yeah, I can see it getting ugly. The start to this game is important for Notre Dame. And how they're going to have to win this game, they're going to have to get super creative on offense. Al Golden's one of the best defensive coordinators in college football. He's going to have to come up with a great game plan here, scheme up some timely pressures, get Will Howard under pressure, hopefully force him into a mistake. And then that middle 8, Notre Dame has dominated in the middle 8 all season, steal a possession, maybe double up Ohio State. But if they get too far behind early on, then it could be trouble. I also expect Notre Dame to be aggressive here. I mean, Marcus Freeman's been awesome throughout the entire college football playoff. 4th downs, special teams, trick plays. So that's where you're going to have to make up the talent gap here. So curious to see just the chess match between these 2 staffs. But I agree with you that if Ohio State can jump out early, there's definitely an avenue where this gets ugly. Quick reminder for all our picks today. Quick slips in the YouTube chat and episode description if you want to follow along. All right, let's move on to anytime touchdowns. I'll throw out Aeneas Williams. He's been getting a lot more snaps for Notre Dame in the college football playoff. And I mentioned Ohio State's red zone defense. How will Notre Dame score if they get down inside the 20? I don't think they're going to have a ton of success running it at that point. Now, Riley Leonard's legs make sense, and maybe he can get in there. But I think one of the ways that they can actually score is Aeneas Williams. We saw Texas last week with their backs who had 9 or 10 catches and 2 touchdowns, some wheel routes. There could be a big busted play on a screen here. So I like Williams to get quite a few touches in this game. I think he's worth a shot to score a touchdown. Colin, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a long shot here that the number continues to shrink. We'll see how long it's a long shot. I'm going to go Jaden Harrison of Notre Dame here. We're currently 27-1 out there. This has come all the way down from 40-1 through the betting week. He logged a kickoff return touchdown against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. If you assume that Ohio State's going to get 4 to 6 scores, then you're going to get 4 to 6 Jaden Harrison returns that could potentially go all the way like he did against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. He also hauled in a receiving TD in week 12 against Virginia. That is one of Riley Leonard's 19 touchdowns on the season. If you do a little bit of quick math, about a 6 to 7%, this number really should be around 15 to 1, 14 to 1. 27 to 1 is a long shot. I would take it all the way down to that number. Look for maybe a special teams touchdown, maybe something in the red zone. He does get 1 or 2 targets per game. So let's use this one as the long shot.
Nice. Like it. Nice little dart there. Calabrese, you're going back to your guy here?
Yeah, going with Henderson at just about even money. I think it's 105 in the market right now. I mentioned it before. How have teams beaten or taken Notre Dame to the wire? They fed their top backs. Ontario Brown had 225 total yards, a touchdown. Nick Singleton, 117 total yards, 3 touchdowns. As you mentioned, Stuck, he could have had 4. Isaac Brown, 95 total yards for Louisville with a touchdown as well. So I think Henderson is going to get every opportunity to be a game breaker here. And because he can score from anywhere on the field, I feel more comfortable than maybe a traditional back with an anytime touchdown play. And the man coverage, it's just going to open up the running back, receiving tree, screen pass potential as well. So I'll go ahead with him at essentially even money.
All right. And if you're so inclined, if you want to throw some couch change on all 3, I believe at FanDuel, it's like, I don't know, 350 to 1 plus. Follow along on the Parlay Express account in the Action Network app, which you should be following along anyway. All of our analysts, some of the long shot fun bets that we have each weekend are all on there. So Parlay Express, make sure you follow along. All right, let's take a break in the action and throw it to Colin and Johnny Manzel from a conversation earlier this week to get his thoughts on the game.
I'm going Ohio State to cover, and I'm going to predict the final score. Let's say I think Ohio State can score 35. So let's go 35-21 Ohio State and crown our national champion.
Yeah, I would, with my over ticket, would be extremely happy with that. If you had to make a single game parlay with a couple of props in there, where would you target?
I'd go Jeremiah Smith anytime touchdown, and then I would probably go over on Ohio State team total points. I think the way that Ohio State has played on offense throughout this, they've only gotten better as it's gone on a little bit. Obviously, a little bit stagnant in that Texas game, but for the most part, this is a unit that depending on Will Howard plays, they're really really solid and can hit a home run at any point in time.
There we go. You're back, Stuck.
All right. Thanks, Johnny and Colin. By the way, if you are curious, I think I just confirmed that the official kickoff time is 7:45 Eastern, not 7:30. 7:30 fake kickoff time. I believe 7:45 is what they're expecting. All right, but before we get out of here, let's build a quick same game parlay. I'll kick things off. I'm going to go back to Egbuka, who I started the show with. Let's go all over 90 reception yards. He hit this number in each of his past 2 meetings against Notre Dame. I think he's going to get plenty of targets, can hit some explosive plays. There's also semi-incentive in this number. If he reaches 95 yards, he'll become Ohio State's all-time leading receiver in his final game. Now, is Ohio State worried about that in the national championship? Absolutely not. It means nothing. But if they do blow out Notre Dame and this game is out of hand late and he's close, and I do think he has a big game, I mean, they're probably going to throw it to him a couple more times. So that's where I think this potentially, that incentive could come into play. It's not like they're going into this game trying to get him his record. They want to win this game. But in the end, if he's close, he's probably going to get maybe an extra target or 2. So let's go with Egbuka all over 90 yards. Hopefully he hits this 90-yard mark for a 3rd straight season against Notre Dame. Colin, what do you want to throw in here?
I'm going to stay on your side of the ball with Ohio State's offense here. I'm going to go Will Howard anytime TD plus 330. I think the number is completely mispriced. This is a guy, by the way, who's had 7 rushing TDs on the season, tripped and fell and stumbled against Texas, or else he'd had another rushing touchdown. Projected about a 40% chance for him to have a rushing TD here. That's how the value goes down to about plus 150. Notre Dame's weakness is defending inside zone from the defensive interior. So that is a great look for Will Howard to take advantage of. Could be some goal line sneaks here. There's a lot of avenues for Will Howard to get into the end zone. So let's go ahead. Plus 330 Will Howard anytime TD.
Yeah, and it's final game of the season. Quarterback run game.
Yep.
Let it loose. Calabrese.
The only Notre Dame prop that I like, Aeneas Williams over 41.5 combined on his receiving and rushing at -114. As you alluded to earlier, Stuck, Williams' snap count has just about doubled from the regular season to the college football playoff. And a big reason for that is he's been so reliable in blitz pickup situations.
Yep.
And if the game script plays out the way that I believe it will, Ohio State's going to have a pretty healthy second half lead. That's going to mean a lot of passing situations, known passing downs for Notre Dame. I think Williams is going to get to 25, 30 snaps in this game. I think that'll translate to about 7 to 10 touches. And he can do most of this work in the receiving game. You know, those one-on-one coverages, the opportunity on those angle routes, maybe to get 10, 15, 20 yards in a chunk. Texas, as you pointed out as well, ate up Ohio State in the passing game. Blue and Wisner finished with 11 receptions, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. Denbrock will find a way to get this guy open. And then the last piece of it is, if you look at how talented he was, I know at the beginning of the season, he was in the back of the running back room for Notre Dame, but he was a Missouri high school legend. He holds a lot of state records there. High school, state in terms of being a factory for Division I programs. That's really impressive that he's able to climb to the top of those ranks. This guy is really talented. I think by next year, he'll be a household name and Notre Dame fans will be in love with this guy. But right now, I think he's still flying under the radar. So to have him at a totally reasonable number for both rushing and receiving in the low 40s, I would play this all the way up to 49.5 yards. And if you can get plus money on it, even better.
Yeah, spam some wheel routes here, Mike. I mean, we saw what Texas did in that aspect, and I agree. I think you should get some looks here. So that'll do it for us. The final college football show of the season. Don't worry, we will have college basketball shows returning, I believe, this Saturday. Keep an eye out on Twitter. We'll keep you up to date there. Thank you to Mike, Colin, Johnny, Sean, our producers on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in all season. It was a lot of fun sweating with you guys on a weekly basis. Let's do it one more time tonight. Cash some winners. Good luck on all of your wagers, and we will see you in the summer. Cheers.